Well, hello and welcome back to another edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm your host, Chris Greene, the Director of Network Growth for the Avoya Travel Network. We certainly appreciate you making time to join us today. We're really excited about today's edition of On Deck with Avoya because we're going to be introducing a brand new Meet the Team feature that's going to be part of our weekly conversation here today. We'll be getting to that in just a couple of minutes. If by chance this is the first time that you've found On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update, thank you again so much for your time. We gather every Thursday at this time, 2:15 Eastern Time, 11:15 a.m. Pacific. And the idea behind it is just to share some information that we hope kind of causes a spark that gets you to reach out and want to have a deeper discussion. My team of specialists would love to interact with you and explain all of the best-in-class resources that Avoya Travel Network has at their use in order to build their successful business and how they interact with Avoya Travel, us, the company. So again, thank you for your time, and we hope you find something valuable in this. Let's move forward with our edition today of On Deck with Avoya with some industry insights and our eye on the industry. And I guess the big news would have to be yesterday's inauguration of President Biden. And I think a lot of people in the travel industry are both excited and a little bit nervous about what a change in leadership in the White House is going to mean to the future of the travel industry. What kind of changes might be made in the rollout of a vaccine? What kind of changes might be made when it comes to international travel, the reopening of borders, and all of those things. And people are a little bit, like I said, they're anxious, they're a little bit nervous, they're excited, and everybody's just kind of watching to see if the CDC is going to have new information. We found out that today, President Biden is expected to sign executive orders requiring masks on all public transportation, including trains, buses, and aircraft. International travelers will need to present a negative COVID-19 test and will have to quarantine upon arrival. So we're going to have to kind of wait and see whether all of these play out to be favorable or unfavorable to the cruise and the travel industry. One also has to kind of wonder what possible help in the form of new stimulus might be coming down the pipe here soon. Is it going to benefit only the large vendors and travel companies, or is there going to be something that's in there that's really going to go to the heart of the matter and helping out the small, independently owned, mom and pop kind of travel agencies? So all eyes will be watching, and you can bet that great organizations like ASTA and CLIA will be leading the charge to make sure that the travel agent needs are at least heard by the representatives up there in Congress and in charge. And if you're not part of those organizations, I personally invite you to join. I mean, ASTA and CLIA are fantastic organizations, always going to bat for the industry, and it's important that we support them. As a member of the Avoya Travel Network, if you're not a member of CLIA, you can join at a reduced rate and some other benefits that go along with that. And again, my team is more than happy to go over details with you. Marriott International announced this week that they continue to make a big push into the Asia Pacific market in 2021 with 100 new properties announced to come online before the end of this year. That's a pretty amazing and staggering number if you think about it. And this comes on the heels of 2020, where Marriott already added 80 new properties there in the Asia Pacific part of the world. And they reported that they've had pretty good business, at least in mainland China, which has seen a fairly decent year, all things considered. I mean, third quarter of 2020, Marriott reported that their revenue in mainland China was up 25%. They've got new properties coming on in mainland China, South Korea, Japan, India, and in Australia. And I think it's important for the travel agent community, especially those focused on luxury travel, because the Asia Pacific market continues to be really hot on a lot of travelers, wish list, that bucket list kind of a trip. Big news from the Royal Caribbean International Camp this week. They announced the sale of their brand Azamara. It's been sold, or it's in the process of being sold, to a private equity firm, Sycamore Partners. The price tag, $201 million in all cash transaction, expected to close sometime here in the first quarter after it jumps through all the regulatory hoops that it has to go through. I'm going to be asking my guest on our new feature, Steve Hirshan, here in just a couple of minutes, his thoughts on this sale. But so far, the industry reaction has kind of been a win-win. I mean, a lot of people feel that Azamara will have an owner that'll be able to focus more time and energy and attention on boosting and growing that brand, Royal Caribbean, on the other hand, is going to have a big boost when it comes to cash flow with that $201 million. They're going to save on the monthly cash burn. They're going to have 3 ships now that they're not having to pay for money that's not returning any revenue to them at the moment. So again, a bit of a win-win. And Azamara was really quick to make sure that the traveling public, the consumers, especially their loyal people to that Azamara brand, that they let them know that it's not going to impact their future bookings. It's not going to have any impact on future cruise credits, and that many of the features that people who have sailed with Azamara have come to know and love are still going to be part of that great experience in the future with Azamara. So this is a good time, though, to kind of segue into our brand new segment with our new Meet the Team feature, because my first guest is Steve Hirshan. And Steve is Avoya Travel's Senior Vice President in charge of sales. And as you can see on the screen, Steve's been in the industry for a long time, has a lot of just a wealth of knowledge and experience to share. And we're really excited to have Steve as our first guest on our Meet the Team feature. So Steve, welcome. And thank you for being part of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. Before we jump into our main feature, let me put you on the spot for just a second and just get your thoughts on this Azamara sale from Royal Caribbean International. How do you think that's going to impact the industry as a whole? Maybe Avoya Travel's thoughts on that, and what kind of impact that might have for the travel agent community.
I think you touched on some of the high points in your introduction, Chris. But I think, I think everybody knew that Azamara was really a niche product, and Royal Caribbean certainly has brands that are of the mega size, whether it means ship size or just the sheer size of their brands, Royal Caribbean Celebrity. And I think once they acquired Silver Sea, you could kind of see the writing on the wall for Azamara. Silver Sea is much more of an internationally known brand, much different kind of reputation than Azamara, more solidified. And to your point, what cruise line won couldn't use some extra cash right now, though I don't know what the exact numbers are, but 200 million is probably about 2 weeks worth of cash for Royal Caribbean. So probably more to your point about some cruise lines like Carnival, Princess, Holland America have moved ships for destruction, for layup, permanent layup. Others have sold ships to European cruise lines. So just the mere fact that cruise lines understand that even when ships do come back to sail, it will not all come back immediately. They'll probably, I think I saw this morning that it takes about 16 weeks to get a ship that's been in a hot layup up and running again, and months to get one that's been in cold storage for the last year up and running. So, my guess is, and I've been saying this for a while, Chris, is that I think we won't see ships sailing until beginning of July. At that point, you'll see no more than half the ships in a line sailing, and they'll probably be sailing at half capacity. So I think every cruise line has made whatever different kinds of attempts they could make to reduce the capacity to reflect the realities of what this year and the next couple may look like.
Steve, that leads me really into my next question for you. And, when we were introducing you, and certainly you've been in the industry for a long time, how do you think that the years that you've been in the industry and all of your experiences kind of prepared you for what we've went through in the last year and impacted you under this COVID-19 crisis?
Yeah, well, honestly, I don't think anything could have prepared us for COVID. We went through Legionnaire's disease with Celebrity when they started up. We went through norovirus with the cruise lines at one point in time. Of course, I was around actually working in New York during 9/11, and we went through that and we came through that. But those were all kind of really short-term impact situations for the industry that certainly hurt at the time, but you could see that they weren't going to be long-lasting, ongoing issues like COVID-19 has been. And I think for the listeners on the phone, I think we were really kind of lucky that when the cruise lines originally started canceling cruises last March and April and said they would protect commission. I don't think they had any idea of how long this was going to go on. Had they known it was going to go for a year, I really wonder whether they would have protected commission from the start, because I don't think they would have locked themselves into doing that for a year and put them into a cash bind. But of course, they'll tell you they realized it was also the only way to kind of save the travel distribution system, despite the growing amount of direct business, and travel agents are still booking 70-75% of all cruise departures, and they certainly needed to keep us healthy and as whole as possible.
I mean, in the 20 years that I've been part of the cruise industry, I've always felt that the industry was so resilient. I mean, it was always able to kind of meet challenges. And even if there were setbacks, they were temporary setbacks. Even though this is a challenge that none of us could foresee, and it's certainly the biggest challenge that probably anybody has been through that's been part of the cruise industry, do you still see the industry as kind of being resilient and with its ability to bounce back here in the near term?
I mean, thankfully, the consumer is resilient. I mean, we talked about a couple of things that we've gone through that were kind of on the higher level of disasters over the last 30 years. But, we're an industry that's every year probably affected by hurricanes. Ships are, changing ports for weeks or months at a time because of troubles in the areas that they travel to. And yet the consumer keeps coming back. So it's an amazing testament to a cruise industry that I've seen grown tremendously over the last 30 plus years, that the loyalty of the consumer is so strong. Once people go on a cruise, and I have to say it for myself, once I went on my first cruise, I said, wait a minute, I like great food. I like to gamble when I'm on vacation. I get bored being in the same place for more than one day or two. Why would I ever do anything different than cruising? And I've probably been on, I don't know, lost count after 40 or 50 cruises, but I think cruise lines and the cruise industry has built a tremendously loyal clientele. And I think I heard a recent survey on one of the business channels saying that 82% of consumers say as soon as COVID is passed, they want to make a major expenditure, and likely on travel would be one of their top reasons for making that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I actually learned a new word in the last day, a revenge trip. And it's not revenge about anybody. It's just revenge on COVID in general. Like that people just feel like COVID stole a year of experiences from them and they want to get revenge by like locking in just an amazing experience to, in the near future.
Revenge trip was when I make my wife go with me.
Poor thing.
Exactly.
One of the reasons, Steve, I was so excited to have you on today as a guest and given your title as Senior Vice President in charge of sales was to talk a little bit about how important leads are. I know for my team and our discussions with potential affiliates in the Avoya Travel Network that the word leads come up all the time. Why are leads just so important for the success of a travel agency in general?
Sure. First of all, of course, when we talk about leads, we mean customers. They're
Right.
not just names or email addresses or phone numbers to cold call. They're people that have actually expressed an interest. And the reason why I think it's so important to a business, I mean, one, obviously, most people on this call or in the travel industry community on the agency side are great salespeople, but they may not be great marketing people as well. Not everybody can do everything well, or they may not have a lot of financial resources. And these days, with marketing, if you don't have a lot of money to spend, you're barely going to be noticed. So having an organization like Avoya, where our expertise has always been marketing, generating live leads, which means phone calls or electronic requests for our agency network, and kind of taking the marketing and the financial risk out of the equation for our agents, I think is huge. I mean, there are certainly, Chris, of sites where you can go and buy leads, but one problem with that is you have to have some money to put up, and there's no guarantee that there's going to be any return. And also, many of these sites offer the lead to more than one agency.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're spending money to compete with yourself, which I think there's enough competition without me funding that.
Yeah, when I was a business owner, before I was an employee with Avoya and I owned my own travel agency, that was the struggle that I had, was just getting any kind of a logical return on investment in that whole marketing and lead generation aspect. I mean, the companies that were selling leads, like you said, it was like more of a shark feeding frenzy. It was you and the kind of clients that you got were never based on loyalty. They didn't care really about the service that you provided. It was all just about bottom dollar, and whichever agent was willing to give away the farm the most was the one that might end up getting a chance to book that trip, if at all.
Conversation myself with Avoya 15 years ago. when after 20 years in the cruise industry side, I decided to make a change and start my own agency and wound up with Avoya. And I called the different hosts and consortiums that were out there, who of course I knew from my time on the supplier side, and they all basically said the same thing to me. We have this override commission. We pay up to 15, 16, whatever percent. We do this kind of marketing that you can buy into. This is how much you pay to join. This is how much you pay per month. And then, of course, my answer was always, well, where do I find the clients? And they said, well, that's what you have to do. And I'm thinking, like, if I could do that, what would I need them for? I could just get a CLIA number, call the cruise lines and register online these days, and start selling and getting commission. I needed somebody to find the clients for me because I didn't have the money, enough money to be able to generate clients on my own, nor the time, nor the expertise. And, so for me, it was lucky enough to sit down my first day with Avoya as an agency owner, and my phone starts ringing, and I don't think I could have done that on my own very easily.
Yeah, I totally concur with that. That was the same experience that I had, when I first joined the Avoya Travel Network. Is it fair to say, Steve, that despite everything that we've been through in the last year and all of the challenges that we might face here short term in the near future, that you, not only as an executive in an Avoya Travel, but as a person who's been in the travel industry for so long, that you're still bullish about the future of leisure travel and the cruise industry in general?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, for a couple of reasons. Uh, Number one, I think people these days, and certainly of late, they don't consider a vacation a luxury anymore. They consider it a necessity. We all know about the pent up demand that's out there for people looking to return to travel. We hear all the anecdotal feedback on that. We talk to our clients who can't wait to go, or having been already canceled one, two, or three times, are still rebooking to go again. So I know the pent up demand is there. And I know people that are probably a lot smarter than us in the financial realm, who are lending money to cruise lines to keep them in business for over a year without really any income coming in, certainly believe in the future. So uh, for me, it's just a question of when, not if, the industry gets back on its feet again.
That's fantastic here, because I know you're part of a lot of high level conversations, and conversations that a lot of us wouldn't be privileged to be part of, with executives from the cruise lines and the various tour operators and things. So just great to get that feedback from you. I noticed your fun fact was your first cruise that was on the SS Veracruz, a big beastie ship, but only 700 passengers, right? How did that experience then compare to, say, like a modern cruise that, like the last cruise experience that you've had? I'm guessing there's been a lot of advancements in that industry, from that standpoint.
It's funny because I don't think the basic concept has changed in terms of cruising being, fairly all inclusive. Like I said earlier, I love good food. Food was great on the ship, even though it was an older, small ship. Uh, no matter what ship you get to into a port, the port doesn't change. Whether you got there on the Vera cruise, or you got there on the Veendam or Volendam, and I think the concept of going to different places, having your entertainment, not packing and unpacking each stop you make. I think the cruise message has been pretty consistent over all these years. Just obviously the amenities and the enhancements have certainly grown to a whole different level. But the basic concept, I think, that proved to be extremely popular from the start, has been refined, but not in an evolutionary kind of way or a revolutionary kind of way. It's just in a slow process of improvement on an original concept that somebody was genius enough to come up with at Norwegian Cruise Line and Carnival many years ago.
What about like destinations or cruises that are still on your personal bucket list? I mean, where does Steve Hirshan want to go in the near future when we can get back out there and travel at will?
I think after the last year, I think I would take a 7 day nowhere cruise and not complain. Well, some of the highlights of cruises that I've done has certainly been Alaska, Panama Canal, and Mediterranean. But one destination that I really haven't been to, either on cruise or land, is South America. I certainly think something around South America would certainly be of interest to me in the future.
Yeah, the only place I've cruised to was in Colombia, but it
Well,
was
your emeralds, you got
really.
your emeralds there, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, yeah. All that many of them. Yeah, that's how many I brought back. But it was a fantastic. I remember when I did my first cruise, and it was on like the Carnival Inspiration or something like that, and I out of Long Beach in California, and I got back, and a travel agent friend of mine, I wasn't even in the business then. They said, "Oh, you sailed on the bottom end of the Carnival ships." I said, "That was the bottom end."
Well,
I said, "I had so much fun. If that's the bottom end, I'm like you. I'm hooked for life." You know.
that's
So.
what I said too. You know, I went on this older ship that was then owned by a company called then Bahama Cruise Line, and I thought cruising was the greatest thing in the world, and I didn't realize that, like you say, this was one of the lower end ships. You could go on a weekend cruise for $99, though. That probably still true today in a backwards kind of way, but yeah, I don't think I've ever really been on a bad cruise.
Absolutely. Well, Steve, thank you so much for your great information.
My
Before we
pleasure.
wrap up our segment, any last thoughts that you want to share with those that are watching today on Facebook?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious statement that I'll make is, and I've been saying this for a while, that I think the issues with COVID are at least finally in our rearview mirror, and that we're getting closer to getting out of it than we are to the beginning of it, which is certainly encouraging. Uh, you know, we certainly know that it's been a rough time in the industry for many small agencies. There's been a lot of attrition. I think Aston Clear probably calculate that probably 40% of travel agencies that were in business a year ago won't be there by the time cruising starts. I mean, our network is held up pretty well because we're not really a fee-based plus organization. It's minor, it's a minor charge per month to stay affiliated. So our group is hanging in there. Um, and I hope that everybody on the call, whether it's with Avoya or somewhere else, finds the best place to shelter in place and hunker down. Still thinking July is kind of when ships will start to resume, which means April for final payments and commissions to start coming in again. So hope everybody can make it, because I know everybody's like me, I think, in this business, that once you get into the travel business, it's kind of infectious. You can't get it out of your blood. So I know you want to stick into it as long as possible. So hang in there, and if we can help, let us know.
Steve, thank you again. Steve Hirshan, everybody, our Senior Vice President in charge of sales for Avoya Travel. Steve, we appreciate you very much making yourself available to be our guest today.
Thanks very much for having me, Chris. Good luck, everyone.
Absolutely. Next week, we're going to have another amazing guest on our Meet the Team feature here on Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. And I can't wait to introduce you to Andy Craig, our Senior Director of Consumer Marketing. That's going to be next Thursday here on Deck with Avoya. I do want to remind you that we still have our special offer available in the marketplace. This is to affiliate for free for an experienced travel professional. Explore with complete flexibility, no long-term contract or exclusive agreement. What we're looking for is an experienced agent, an agent that already has at least some level of a book of business. Maybe you have future cruise credits or future tour credits. You're looking for a better home of which to manage your business through, looking for better resources, best in class resources that Avoya Travel is really proud to have. Maybe you have some bookings on the books that you'd be in a position to transfer over once you became a member of the Avoya Travel Network. We're looking value for value to, again, waive our affiliation fee that is normally $495. So we're hoping that we can kind of create that spark. Avoya Travel is really proud of the fact that we're the #1 host agency and have been for year after year after year. There's a reason behind that. My team, again, would be more than happy to get into all of the details about this special offer. It only runs for a limited amount of time. We don't have a firm end date yet, but again, as Steve said about COVID, same thing probably about this offer. We're getting closer to the end of the offer than we are to the beginning of it. So again, please reach out today. There's my contact information on the screen, and we would just love to chat. Like I said, hoping that we can create a spark that then turns into a conversation, and maybe that conversation, once you find out about Avoya Travel's fantastic best-in-class resources, will lead to us putting together the beginning blocks of a shared success relationship. Chris.Greene at avoyatravel.com is my email. There's the phone number. Again, you can reach us through the avoyanetwork.com website or right here on Facebook through the Avoya Travel Network page. Thank you again for your time. We hope to see you back for future episodes. You know, the reason we started this Meet the Team feature is that Avoya Travel has the highest level of support people to affiliates of any major host agency in the industry. Best-in-class resources make a huge difference for those that are part of the Avoya Travel Network, and we're excited to have you meet the great people behind those best-in-class resources. So have a fantastic week. We hope to see you again next Thursday right here for another edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. Have a great day, everybody.